February has been so far a great boost of a month for mobile gaming, and it's already been jam-packed with tons of new games regardless of the genre. If you're looking for something to invest some legitimate time for fun, on your cell phones there's about 30 of the biggest new games that came out for the past 30 days, ready to go for your Android and iOS devices as well. Shall we? At number 1, probably the most exciting announcement out of the Middle East since the beginning of the year. I actually thought we're still waiting a long time before having hands-on even a demo for this one, but we've got over here, in case you missed it, a Battle Royale shooter new game called Endis. And this has actually been in the making for an entire year, and is halfway a Fortnite in gameplay but infused with games such as the Outer Worlds and aesthetic, or you could say Apex Legends. Check it out, game's available now on Play Store in its pre-registered state and taking you down about 2 GB of space. Up for pre-register on the Play Store, playable for free since a few days ago, we have something here called Punch, Kick, Duck. This is a casual arcade dodge and fighting game from the same people who came up with the old Shoot the Moon game that was almost half a decade ago. However, Punch, Kick, Duck over here is still in the making, playable online now, playable with a controller and quite simple with or without the controller, even if you had one. The game is, as you can see, a score chasing game in nature and legitimately funny. Moving on to number 3, quick mention over here since I thought this one's coming in at least a few months from now. We've over here finally Endlink Extinction is Forever. Download over 100 times only on the Play Store. Why? Because it's about 10 crisp US dollars for you to be able to have hands on it. Not gonna lie, this game is something else if you're into drama or just novel style like Annapurna Interactive, story heavy games. This one's playable with a controller, playable offline, and probably playthroughs before you will be done with it. It's a good game, one problem, takes you down about $10. Coming up behind that at number 4, been out there for a couple of weeks now. I had to mention this one because it's getting a lot of attention lately. We've got something called Kanjo Zoku, an illegal street racing action game set within the Osaka, Japan base on its streets and locals, playable only online and in co-op multiplayer with a bit of a kick with most elements of Need for Speed games like police chasing, engine and body tuning, and some really nice 90s and 00s inspired cars for all old timers like me. At number 5, officially out globally since only hours ago, we've got over here finally Lost Era, Infinite Farming. Guys, this is not the old Lost Era Immortal Legends that came out September last year. This one was out over 10,000 times already, and if you didn't know, you see, you can get infinite diamonds, a ton of free draws and free VIPs just by logging into this game. Well, that's just a fun little mention for those of you who had trouble with the rewarding system of the previous iteration. Game's free and playable online.
Command your heroes in epic tower defense.
Sitting on the Play Store since 48 hours ago with about 100 downloads only. In case you missed it, over here we have something called Tower and Titans. Game of tower defense RPG, kind of hero-based, hero collecting online game. I'd have to say one of the most interesting in nature if we're talking tower defense games with PvP elements as well. Game's free with in-app purchases and ads for more rewards, legitimate in visuals, and even has a nice background lore for each character. So keep it in mind. Moving on at number 7, we've got here finally Payday Crime War, sitting on the Play Store with over 10,000 downloads already, taking you initially about 100 megabytes in storage, as an action co-op shooter and for the first time in 4 versus 4 modes to play with your friends. Guys, Crime Wars is quite legitimately just a console to mobile port, and visuals and gameplay has the same old 10-minute matches with a high replay value and some of the most interesting customization options out of any shooting game. Check it out. No longer up for pre-register, but available worldwide since a couple of weeks ago. In case you missed it, we have here finally the one and only Flash Party. I'm pretty sure most of you are already familiar with this one. The game's an action brawler, fighting game, heavily inspired by the Super Smash Bros. And the recently released Multiverses console game. Here's a trailer in case you just missed it. The game is, in my opinion, maybe even a tad more exciting to go about on runs with friends, albeit it's playable in a single player with AIs, which are actually pretty smart as well. That's it, the game takes you about 1 gigabytes of space, taking you about 300 megabytes of storage. At number 9, we have Fishing Elite. This is an online fishing sim. I'd have to say the most realistic sim I've had hands on for a while. Not just fishing sims, but just sims in general, and maybe just the biggest in content compared to the rest of the games in the list. Fishing Elite is actually free to play, pretty easy to get the hang of if you like something to chill with, but at the same time prefer to have a little bit of a competition once every while in PvP. This game's definitely for you. Moving on, we have, I've actually mentioned this one before, the game Static Shift Racing. This is miraculously the first job of a pretty good racing mobile game developer as an online/offline open world driving racing sim. Static Shift Racing is quite a bit like Test Drive and Need for Speed games. It's just a quick mission overview in case you missed out on the announcement last month. Game is no longer in its pre-register state. It's downloaded over 1 million times already on the Play Store worldwide and takes you down about 1 gigabyte of storage. So there's a cat protagonist game you can get your hands on for free as well, sitting on the Play Store with about 1,000 downloads since last week. We've got here something called Commandos, which is an action story-based shooter about the world where humans are just no longer around, except cats in their lazy nature do. And everything's been heaven until some alien race starts to invade their privacy and they're abducting their kittens or something. Anyway, this is how the game really looks. Initially takes you about only 50 megabytes of storage. Been out there for a couple of weeks now. We have at number 12 a game called Wipeout, Battle Royale. I would have to say a Fall Guys inspired co-op multiplayer, which is playable with or without your friends in parties if that's your thing, or totally solo, just playable against enemies. Wipeout here is actually in its soft launch state. It's getting suggestions and gameplay adjustments, but considering that, it's still almost a bug-free game and really fun to play with or without your friends. Takes you down about 600 megabytes of space and it's playable only online. Frozen City has been out there for a month now and already downloaded 1 million times on the Play Store with a 4.7 out of 5. Now for those of you who missed it, this game's a city-building post-apocalyptic set sim with survival and resource management elements. Frankly, this is actually the #1 most earning sim game on the Play Store as I'm speaking. It's actually awarded that. It's got such great innovative and great designs and pace to it that comes naturally addicting to any age and mood. Here, game's free and takes you down about 400 megabytes of space. Sitting on both the Google Play and the App Store with a 5 out of 5 review score since only a week ago. We've got here a bit of a tricky recommendation, something called Unknown Nights Pixel RPG. Maybe a very advanced game in visuals if we're talking pixel arts, but one of the buggiest games in nature that I've come across for the past 6 months, if not years. Here's a trailer, short trailer. The game's an adventure story-based RPG and playable only online. Number 15, we have another racing gem of a free game out there since last week. That's actually one of the more mentioned games recently, sitting on the Play Store with almost 10,000 downloads, something called Blast Motors Off-Road Insane. It's said to be coming from two veterans, or so they call themselves, that's been making mobile games for 8 years. Honestly, if I had to say so much, this is a legitimately nicely done, fast-paced racing slash semi-open world driving game. It's got a full gamepad support, it even has a multiplayer, lots of customization options, and a few battle modes for a little bit of a kick. Polaris Quest is available on the Play Store since only 48 hours ago as a Korean game. Now, you're probably not going to believe this one, but the original game is actually called Polaris Quest, an idle game to enjoy with one hand. Probably hitting two targets at the same time with the title, but honestly, one hell of an MMORPG in visuals and characters, if I had to say so myself. Game's pretty rewarding, as the word can just describe itself, legitimately addicting, and it's getting updates once every week, so make sure to check this one as well. And number 17, from a tad over a week ago, I think, yes, from a little less than 2 weeks ago, we have an open world RPG monster breeding action RPG over here. I've actually mentioned this one before, called Monster Universe. Sitting on both the Google Play and the App Store with a 4.5 out of 5 and a miserable 10,000 downloads, mainly because, well, this game's not entirely in English. Gameplay-wise, it's somewhere a Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild and a Souls-like dungeon crawler, very nice in visuals, gameplay, and has a pretty big world to explore as well. Not my best recommendation over here, but still, since the game is available globally now, I had to mention this, guys. Osu, or Osu Global, right now, is an MMORPG adventure, mainly PvP. See, Osu is one of those hit or miss games for every single individual. To be honest, it ain't a bad game. I mean, that bad, but still terrible in gameplay, like it's hella laggy, even on my own device. It's not easy to connect to servers as well, but in any case, the game's free and it's actually quite huge in content. So keep that somewhere in your mind. Coming up behind that, taking you down for $7, which is a bliss compared to the PC port, a $30 original game for PCs. We've got over here, in case you missed it, YouTuber's Life 2, out there on the Play Store since 2 weeks ago with mostly negative acclaim. Guys, YouTuber's Life, for those of you just new, is a management life sim like Harvest Moon's, albeit you're a YouTuber like me, or Guga. Game's pretty fun, I have to say, tuned down in replay value when ported to mobile, and it's got a few raw edges and a lot of bugs, so you want to consider that. Been in the making for 4 years straight, I've heard. Still in the works, however, to make it over to the Google Play Store, which is not there. By the way, you gotta use the link down in the description, that's an official link. We've got something called G2 Fighter. Game's an action RPG shooter, slasher, chapter-based offline slash online game. Actually one of the most generous games in one of the gorgeous and gameplay, I've got to say, that I've come across lately, with a decent campaign, a nice story, and hella replay value. Make sure to check this one out. And number 21, from a little bit over a week ago, downloaded 1,000 times only, we have the first work of an indie developer, a fully 3D turn-based RPG with hints of real-time RPGs, something you probably see out of a big developer once every while, but totally legitimate with some decent replay value if we're talking turn-based or mainly action RPGs, something called Guardians of Sword. Game's free, got about 50 characters to choose from, 3 classes, and dungeon crawling and PvP elements as well. So keep it in mind. Number 22, I don't really know why I never put this game at number 1 here, but for those of you who missed out on the updates, Eversoul, which I mentioned only once here on the channel, has been sitting on the Play Store with now 1 million downloads since roughly a month ago, and it is legitimately the most visually advanced game on the list. Divine characters, great music and sound designs, really next level stuff. The story is insane, and hell, it's got a 4.4 out of 5 for a game that's downloaded 1 million times. That's not a joke, and it's an RPG open world in case you missed it. Just a quick mention over here, guys. If you're into silly, just country games, Horse Race Master is sitting on the Play Store since last month with over 100,000 downloads and a 4.2 as a horse racing, just comedy game. Something that works pretty much for all ages, specifically if you're either too old or too young. Game's hella fun, challenging, but easy, addicting of course, and takes you down about 100 megabytes of space. Now, coming up behind that, we've got over here finally a horror adventure sequel here from the same folks who earlier came up with the first and the second Smilex Corp, and now finally Smilex Corp 3, which was in the making for roughly 2 years now. That's a lot for a mobile game anyway. Smilex Corpse is literally perfect in controls, visuals, it's even playable offline, and it has a pretty decent story and some decent jump scares as well. Play this one if you like horror games. At number 25, we have something here called Bear vs. War. This is an idle RPG, just clicking game, as you can probably tell. Turn-based, you all know the deal with idle games. This one's got every bit of idle RPG elements, albeit it's in a universe and a timeline where anthropomorphic animals are just the norm. Mostly bears, though. This game is actually playable offline, but with ads, you get more rewards. And hell, this is actually from the same developers of Jet Bear. Coming from the same developers of War Tortoise 2, sitting on the Play Store with 1 million downloads already. At number 26, we have Bug Heroes 2, literally out there on the Play Store as a premium game since almost a decade ago, and now finally free. Bug Heroes is a semi-battle royale action third-person shooter with elements of mobile games, and you can probably tell it's a squad-based. Game's about 250 megabytes in size, free on the Play Store with now optional ads. Been out there for a couple of months already by Bandai Namco. We've got here Ace Angler, Fishing Spirits, M. You see, we did have a Fishing Elite in the video at number 9, but this is an even more addicting game in pace and way more engaging if you want a good time waster. Ace Angler is an online game, takes you about 600 megabytes of space, so it's clearly more diverse in content compared to that. Highly recommended if you're a fishing fanatic. This game is quite challenging and even has a no ad option, also then optional ads for even more rewards. At number 28, we have Idle Burger Empire, downloaded almost 1 million times on the Play Store, sitting there with a 4.9, almost a 5 out of 5. This is a management, low poly and graphics sim, quite a bit like Diner Dash, albeit in 3D, top-down 3D, playable only offline, and one of the most engaging idle games you can get for free. There is a downside with this game though, it's got a ridiculous amount of ads, but there is also a premium version where you get literally no ads, so consider that. Sitting on the Play Store since a little bit over a month ago, we have a role-playing, monster-collecting, story-driven strategy, even to some extent, like half just a Darkest Dungeon, another half a Pokemon game, something here called Three Skies. This is actually the first work of its developers, of course, it still needs work and maybe more attention. Game's set to have about north of 100 hours of replay value in story, and it is playable only online, so keep it in mind. And finally, we've got over here since February 1st a huge mobile battle royale shooter going by the name Pangun, which is sitting on the Play Store with over 10,000 downloads already, soon to be 50, as an online fast-paced deathmatch multiplayer. I actually mentioned this one in my last video. This is a third-person shooting game, albeit quite innovative in gameplay mechanics and jumping style compared to any other battle royale game like Fortnite. Has over 50 guns to choose from, a bunch of cool characters to learn about, and it's got more content on the way as well.